Okay, so I've plotted all of my points on my graph. I now need to join them up with the smoothest curve I can. So, nice smooth curve. Sometimes it's easy to do one bit and then come here and do another bit. Nice smooth curve, not a set of straight lines, and you can also join that up to 0 at the beginning. What you have just drawn is a cumulative frequency curve. So what I'd like you to label what you've done, that's a cumulative frequency curve, and it has not been joined up with straight lines. It is a curve, and it will always be a curve. That's really important. So if you need some time to catch up on that, you can do that now. Once you have drawn your curve, we use the curve to work out several different things, and you need to make some notes now in your book. The first thing we work out from the curve is the median, M-E-D-I-A-N. We've come across the word median before. If you think you've got your axes and you've got your curve drawn, maybe a shape similar to that, what we do is we always go halfway up, and then we go along to our curve and then down, and that gives you the median. Now I want you to copy that very brief sketch with that heading into your book. So you just go halfway up, along and down, and that gives you the median. Can you draw that into your book please now? And now in our example, our highest number was 22. So in our example, can you write this down in your book as well please? We need to do half of 22, that's 11. So if you write that down, and then go to your curve, find 11, and then go along until you reach your curve, and from there you go down to the bottom axis. Now I'm getting that as being about 4.5. Depending on where you've drawn your curve, yours may be slightly different. Then what I want you to do is write down here median. That is your median. So, a bit of time if you need it to draw that line in. Now back in your books, for the median, I want you to write down that half of the data is greater than the median. And half of the great data is also smaller than the median. And our median, well, I worked mine out to be about 4.5. So in the example, that means that half of the people, if these heights are of people, whatever they are, no, it's times, isn't it? Sorry. Half of these times, half of the times recorded in the experiment, half of the times were greater than, and my median was about 4.5, 4.5. So the median is a measurement where half of the people or things were above it and half were below it. So if we can get that written down, please. The next thing is the lower quartile. Now if you've done the median, the lower quartile is dead easy. We're going to do another little sketch I want in your books, please. For this one, the lower quartile. A sketch of your axes and your curve. For the lower quartile, you go a quarter of the way up, along to your curve and down, and that gives you the lower quartile. And in a minute we're going to do this neatly, but we might as well just do one more at the same time in your books. The upper quartile, and you probably won't be very surprised to find out that the upper quartile, you do 3/4 of the way up from the bottom, along to your curve and down. So for the example we're doing, the lower quartile, we need to do a quarter of 22. A quarter of 22 is 5.5. So we're going to go along from 5.5. So if you come back to your graph, 5 will be here, 5.5 will be here. Come along and then go down, and that will be the lower quartile. On my graph, that's about 3. Then the upper quartile, I need to do 3/4 of 22, and that will be 16.5. So back to your graph, you go along from 16.5, which will be about here, along to your curve and then down, and that will be pointing down here at your upper quartile, and mine is just a bit more than 6. So a quick recap on what you need to do next. You need to get these notes in your book. The upper quartile is a quarter of the way along, or quarter of the way up, and we used 5.5, that was a quarter of 22, and I want that drawn accurately on your graph. And the upper quartile, 3/4 of the way up, 3/4 of 22 was 16.5, so I want that one drawn accurately on your graph, and then we can carry on. Okay, we should now have the graph finished with the lower quartile, the median and the upper quartile. There's a few other things you need to know about, or one really, and that is the interquartile range. So can we write this down in your books, please? The interquartile range. And the interquartile range is the upper quartile number take away the lower quartile number. So for my graph, my upper quartile, I'll call that about 6.2. My lower quartile was 3. So on my graph, my interquartile range will be 3.2. And the important thing to know about the interquartile range is that the middle 50% of the data lies in your interquartile range between your upper and lower quartile. So if we can make sure that is written down, and this actually means that in the middle 50% of the times were between 3 and 6.2 hours. And when you've got to that point in a question, you've pretty much finished that question.